Welcome to Butterfield Backstage Banter, the BSP podcast where host Jessica DeMent is joined backstage by her guests to banter about theater at Butterfield in Gainesville, Texas.
Hello, and welcome to Butterfield Backstage Banter. My name is Jessica DeMent, and I am your host. And today I am joined by Ms. Haylee Lopez, who was recently involved with Legally Blonde, actually wrapped today. And Haylee was part of our tech crew doing sound, correct, Haylee?
And assistant stage manager.
Assistant stage managing, two very important key roles that you don't see on stage, but definitely see the impact of on stage. And she's going to join us today to just banter about Butterfield. So welcome so much, or welcome, Haylee, not so much. Thank you so much for joining me. To start us off, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your theater background?
So I have been, I don't know how many years, I would say, been in between 15 and 16 shows. So, I mean, it's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I started in 8th grade and kind of just kept going and going. And it always finds its way back to me.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. And how long have you been associated with Butterfield, and which shows have you done?
So when I got to high school, I remembered hearing about Butterfield, and it wasn't until sophomore year, Christmas time, when I came and saw Elf. It was my first ever Butterfield show I watched. And then I tried to just watch, try to come to shows as much as I could. And then after I graduated that fall December-ish, Shannon, the youth director, was doing A Little Princess, and I auditioned for that, and I was the headmaster of the school in that show, and that was my first Butterfield show. And then last summer I did Shakespeare in Love, and then now I'm in Legally Blonde, and that's my third Butterfield show.
Exciting. And what originally caused you to get involved in theater?
I truly can't even remember. Since I've been doing it since 8th grade, I really don't remember. Everyone always told me I should be in theater. They're like, you're loud, you're dramatic, it fits you. And I was like, well, that's kind of mean, so I don't want to, but it just found me, and now I don't think I would know what to do with it without it.
What do you think has kept you in theater, kept you being involved, kept you coming back to new shows?
I think it's the community and the people within it. It's such a safe bubble. In theater, nobody is going to judge you. We're all a bunch of weirdos. We're all a bunch of oddballs, and so it's like a safety net. Nobody's going to judge you. You can truly act yourself, and nobody's going to judge you for it, because there's somebody either acting the same as you or acting even weirder than you are. So it's just the perfect little bubble.
It's like the island of misfit toys.
It is. And it's being on stage is getting lost in your own little realm in the safest way you possibly can, to leave this reality and go into a different one in the safest way possible.
I can definitely understand that. Being on stage, it just has that sort of feeling where you're still there, but you're able to kind of disconnect or disassociate and really lose yourself in the role and the play and all of that.
I agree, because my director in high school, she always told us, if you have problems, you leave it at the door when you come to rehearsal. When you're in a show and in rehearsal, the minute you walk in that door, all of your bags are left at that door, and you kind of come in, which I think has honestly really helped me, because I just leave it all, and I can just forget about it for a couple of hours while I'm at rehearsal, which I think has also really helped.
That's awesome. I just want to say really quickly to our viewers, if you hear any noises in the background, it is because Legally Blonde literally just wrapped today.
Just closed.
They are striking the set and moving things down, so you may hear some of that. You may not. The mics may be just picking up our voices, but if you hear any noise in the background, it's just theater being theater, and that's just part of the process. Haylee, talk to me a little bit about the role you played in the show, both as sound and as stage manager.
So I'm trying to think about how to describe this. I'm basically Drake and Deborah. Drake's our director and Deborah is our stage manager. I'm basically their second in command. Anything that they need, I'm also there to do. And I'm also making sure that what's going on in the booth is correlating with what's going on backstage and stuff. So it's also I'm kind of everybody's eyes and ears in a sense.
That sounds like a lot of responsibility, especially with
Yeah.
with many people in it. I
Definitely.
imagine there was a lot that you just had to keep up with and be on top of and maintain.
I've done sound before. I did
Mhm.
it. My first time doing sound was junior year, my one act. And this time I can at least see what's going on. When I was in one act, I sat behind the set in a little iPad and I basically had to train myself to I had to like focus in and hear everything. Because when you're doing sound, like you are based on the line. So if somebody jumps a line, you have to be ready to jump to that next cue and stuff. So I mean, it was definitely I felt a lot easier because I could actually see what was going on. So that definitely helped.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
And then I was assistant stage manager, but also when you're assistant stage manager, when your stage manager is not here, you have to go in. And our stage manager was gone for the first few shows. And so I had to I had to be her and still do my job. So it was like, and do sound still.
That's a lot. But you did a great job from what I saw and heard. I want to talk a little bit more about tech and just kind of talk about the value that tech provides to the shows. I think a lot of people, I know in the last episode when I was talking with Haylee Colwell, we were talking about how the audience sees one show.
Yeah.
And then the reality of what actually happens, backstage and everything is very different. And tech has such a massive part in that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
I've been so very fortunate to be on both sides. I've been on stage many, many times, but I've also been behind the scenes. And I think that being able to do both is such like a crazy thing to see because it's like, I know what I have to do on stage, but it's even crazier what has to go on backstage. None of the actors could do what they do without us in a sense, because it's like, we're kind of like the moving parts to them. Like Haylee she can't sing any of her songs if I'm not on sound. She wouldn't be lighted if there wasn't a light technician. We wouldn't have the salon if we didn't have crew moving it. So it's like, it really is like a one big moving piece kind of thing. And I wish that people knew more of what went into it, because it's like, you don't really tech never really gets the recognition they truly deserve from they do from cast. Like our cast has been so like appreciative of their tech, and like Drake has been like very supportive and like always gives thanks to his crew, but it's like the audience never really like sees. They're like, oh well, you just sit up in the booth. And I'm like, there's actually like a lot more that goes into it, especially up in the booth and more especially backstage, because there's just so much going on. You have Haylee had one person assigned to her for all her changes. There were other people assigned to help with other changes, moving set, moving chairs, like all that. It's just like, it has to be one big coherent moving piece.
Yeah.
And I just don't think a lot of like people who aren't theater people don't understand that.
Exactly. And tech is kind of one of those things where when it's good, you don't notice it really.
Right.
Like you notice it because it kind of like in this show, I noticed there was a lot of storytelling with the lighting.
Yes.
The colors of lighting that were chosen for different scenes and songs to really just kind of help back that. And, even with sound and everything, like there's just so much that when it's done wrong, it's very, very obvious. And it can very much take away from an otherwise really great show if you don't have that good tech. If you don't have people, like with stage managing, if the props aren't where they're supposed to be, if people aren't in their places when they're supposed to be, like there's just so much that could potentially go wrong and derail a show that tech is responsible for, but nobody actually really sees because it's just kind of part of the magic of theater. I personally I've been involved in tech as far as like set building, costume and stuff, but I've never been up in the booth as far as being in control of anything, like lights or sounds. It's just a bunch of really scary buttons.
It's very scary being like, especially because I'm sound, like it's up to me to start the show and it's up to me to start it again when we come back from intermission, and it's up to me to end it and all the moving in between. It's just like, it's a very scary job, but at the same time, I love it so very much. I love that I've been able to wear both hats. I've been able to have an actor hat and a tech hat, and I'm just so grateful.
I think it probably definitely gives you a greater appreciation of everything that goes in when you've served in both those areas. What advice would you give to somebody who is maybe curious about participating in tech or would like to learn more but doesn't really know a lot and is kind of intimidated at getting involved?
I would say start talking. Talk to your technicians. I would say just be like, oh, well, how do you do this, this, and that? And try to like maybe observe them a little bit. But I 100% say go for it. I've been the type of person to always be like, I just want to be a part of the process, no matter if I'm on stage or I'm having to sit in the audience and root for y'all, or I'm up behind the scenes or up in the booth. I just want to be supporting and be a part of the process. And I think that there is true value in tech because you really get to see all the moving parts of the show.
Yes, most definitely. And so many shows just couldn't, they just couldn't be without the tech. Even the simple shows that don't rely on a whole lot of lighting or, sound cues and things. Even then, there's still a lot that goes into it and getting it just right to really just support the show. In a way, tech is kind of the supporting cast that nobody ever gets to see.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced from a production standpoint in the show and how you overcame them.
Can you kind of explain that question a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. Like maybe there was something that you never really experienced before in doing sound or a unique challenge that you found in being the assistant stage manager and learning to balance it or something like that was
I've been a stage manager before, but like having to balance being assistant and also having to take on the role like at the same time is kind of like a lot because it's like everybody up until our stage manager left was so used to her, and it was having to go in and have them used to me. Like me and our stage manager, me and her have been best friends for like a really long time, but we're both very different people, and we're one of like I am a little more, I wouldn't say harder than her, but like I've done this before, so I know that business means business. And so I'm like
a little more authoritative.
Yeah, a little more. And I have a louder voice, so I kind of scare people a little more. So it's also, that was another big thing, like having to check like my volume on people so people don't think like I'm always yelling at them. I'm like, I'm not yelling at you, I promise. I'm just letting you know what's going on. And then it was weird because I've never had an actual computer to run sound off of. When I did sound in high school, had a little iPad, and it was just easy to click the button. But in the booth, we have this little box that's like the mouse in a sense. And for a while it was running good, and then it's like stopped working. So like sound cues for a few rehearsals were like late or not right because it wasn't working. So then I had to figure out a different way, and then I had to use the space bar. And then today, I think the keyboard disconnected from the computer, so I had to go back to the mouse.
That's exciting.
And I was like, oh, that's because I was like, why is this sound cue not playing? And I was like, oh my god! And then I clicked the mouse, and I was like, okay, that's working. So, wow, I was like, I didn't know what that was, but it's just like also having to. When you're tech, you have to be able to move quick on your feet. Like you have to be able, if you have, say that somebody's cue line is changed, like you have to be able to be ready to fix that next sound cue and have it ready to go.
Yeah. A lot of quick thinking and, being on your toes. You can't get too comfortable up there in the booth. The booth is not just sitting up there playing on their cell phone.
Not.
What are some of the highlights of this process for you? I know you got to work with your best friend.
I did get to work with my best friend. I got to work with both. I got to work with 3 of my best friends, and a lot of the cast I went to high school with, and I worked with them before, and getting to meet new people, and then getting to work with people that like I worked with in like Shakespeare and like other things like that. And it's just so nice, and meeting so many new people. It's just been like a really fun thing. I got to go to Fish Fest for the first time. I've never been before this year, and that was also a real fun time. Just all of us getting to hang out outside of rehearsal and just like eating and having a good time, and then getting to show our show to people. And then it was just such a fun process. Like we all got along really well, and that's something that I'm very thankful for, because I've been in a lot of shows where people click up really easily. And I'm like, I'm really glad that we all like sit and joke around with each other.
That's great. You know, I keep hearing from people in the show that it's just been such a fun process.
It really has.
And it has been just a lot of that bonding time and that, you know, feeling of family and community that you get with those really great shows where by the end, you know, this final performance is kind of bittersweet. Like you're glad to finally get your time back for a little while, but then you're also a little bit sad to be letting this go. You know, I like to say sometimes, like with theater, I love watching the process. I love watching when it starts off as the blank stage and then you slowly build up and you get the process and the set pieces start coming in and the costumes come in and you slowly see it, you know, come to the show. And then you have your, you know, 2 to 3 weeks of runtime. And then after that final performance,
it's just like, what do you do now?
You just like strike everything and you end up with like,
the bare stage.
The bare stage.
And I'm like, where did the world we just been building go?
Yes. And it's such a crazy sort of feeling, like when you get to the end of the show and then you have that moment where it's like, and now it's over and there's nothing, not that there's nothing left to show for it, but so much art. When you create it, there's something tangible at the end. And with theater, after you're done creating the art, it's just kind of the memory. Which definitely makes, you know, that end of the show so bittersweet. And, you know, when tech comes in and clears it all out, I'm like, oh. And it's like, oh, we get to relax now, but also like closing the chapter on that book is just hard sometimes. You have that great connection with everybody.
It's really hard. I think every show I've done, I've always felt a little like sad about it because it's like, but I always carry my shows in my heart. Like I could probably sit and talk for hours and explain details of every show that I've been in and like what it meant to me. And that's just such a beautiful thing to be a part of so many great shows.
I agree. Oh, this has been such a great chat, Haylee.
Fun.
To wrap up, would you please tell our audience why you think they should explore an opportunity in helping with tech in any of the many ways with Butterfield's season next year for the 24-25 season? We have multiple shows and multiple opportunities to serve in tech.
I think that it is a great thing. It's a great way to get involved. It's a great way to meet new people and to find a new community that you might have never necessarily been a part of. And I think it's such like a joy fulfilling thing to watch and see a production come to life and know that you were a part in building that show.
Absolutely. Well, if any of you are interested in participating in tech in Butterfield, keep your eyes and ears open for various audition announcements every time we do auditions. We are also seeking people for tech to help with costumes, stage building, lighting, sound. If you've never done it before, there's somebody here who can probably teach you. So come on out and sign up to volunteer and be a part of our community. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Haylee. Y'all did such a fabulous job on Legally Blonde. I know our community loved it, and I hope that you get to enjoy the downtime that comes now. So, thank y'all so much, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. For more information, please visit butterfieldstage.org.